Hello, fourth grade. It's Tuesday, the 26th of May, 2020, and this is our language time. We're continuing to work on adjectives. My goal is to finish this unit and maybe dip in a little bit to adverbs a little bit next week, the first couple days of next week. We know that adjectives describe or give us details about nouns, and when we learn about adverbs, they describe and give us details about verbs. Okay, usually, obviously, action verbs. All right, but right now we're still with adjectives, so we're going to talk about comparing adjectives. So I'm on page 177. You're going to do page 177 through 179. All right, so I'm going to give you the rules, and then you're going to be able to do these with no problem. So we're at noticing comparisons on the top of page 177, and it says, adjectives can show how one person or thing compares to another. I'm going to read that again. Adjectives can show how one person or thing compares to another person or thing. So we have our three examples. There's a bird there. Three different birds. The first one says, I am tall. The second bird, I am taller than you. Notice that we added an ER to the adjective tall. The third bird says, I am the tallest one here. Okay, so I'm looking at this. We have, I am tall. I am taller than you. We see that that bird is taller than that bird, so we're comparing. And then the third bird is tallest between all three of them. And so you would add EST to the end of the adjective tall on that last one. All right, so what is the rule for this? How do you know when to add ER, EST, or not add anything? So there are three rules when you are comparing adjectives. I'm going to say that again. There are three rules when you are comparing adjectives. So look at the board behind me. I've written out everything that's here in your book, but I want to teach you and talk you through it. The first rule says, no ending is added to an adjective where nothing is being compared. I'm sorry, it should say is. Let me fix that real quick, forgive me. When nothing is being compared, okay? So you just leave the adjective the way it is, like we did with the bird. I am tall, all right? So I'm going to read this again. No ending is added to an adjective where nothing is being compared. For example, I've put an asterisk here to highlight this. That bird is small, period. It's not being compared to anything. It's just giving a statement about that bird. That bird is small. Done. It's not comparing the bird to another bird or three or more other birds. Rule number 2. When two people or things are being compared, add an ER. I put that in pink to highlight that. Add an ER to the end of the adjective. Just like in our first example, we added an ER to that second bird because it was taller, T-A-L-L-E-R, it was taller than the first one. So here, our example is, that bird is smaller, I underlined my ER, that bird is smaller than this one. Comparing one bird to another word. Comparing one bird to another one. Or any noun, person, place, thing, or idea. Remember, it says two people or things, okay? And small is an adjective, so here it is comparing. In this sentence, it's comparing a thing, a verb. A bird. It's comparing a thing, one bird to another bird, and so you would add an ER to the adjective small. The third rule is when three or more things or people, places, things, or ideas, nouns in other words, when three or more things or people are being compared, add an EST. I put that in pink also so it would stand out. Add an EST to the end of the adjective. So here we're comparing that bird to other birds. That bird is the smallest of all. Not comparing it just to one other verb, but a bird. Verb and bird sound a lot alike. Forgive me, I have verbs stuck in my head right now. Let's try that again. that bird is the smallest of all, comparing the particular bird to all the other birds. So that's 3 or more things or people are being compared. You would add an EST to the adjective. In this case, the adjective is small. So you add your EST. I'll highlight that for you. You add your EST. All right. So that bird is the smallest of all. Once again, 3 rules when comparing. Number 1, no ending is added to an adjective where nothing is being compared. That bird is small. Done. Not comparing it to anything else. Rule number 2, when 2 people or things, nouns in other words, are being compared, add an ER to the end of the adjective. Example, that bird is smaller than this one. That bird is smaller than this one. Number 3, when 3 or more things or people are being compared, add EST to the end of the adjective. Your example, that bird is the smallest of all. Okay, comparing that bird to all the other birds, which would be 3 or more. All right? So when it's not being compared, you don't add ER, EST. One thing is being compared to another thing, you add ER. 3 or more things are being compared, you add EST to the end of the adjectives, whatever they are, whatever the adjective is. So let's look at Think A. These are all written correctly. Number 1 says, I am taller than my older sister. You add ER to tall because you're comparing one sister, the younger sister, to the older sister. Comparing one person to another. Number 2, that is the bluest sky I have ever seen. Bluest. Blue is the adjective. You add an EST because of all the skies that this person has seen. Today's sky is the bluest of all the skies he or she has ever seen. So you're comparing all the skies seen. Number 3, my cat is fatter than it should be. Okay? Comparing my cat, its fatness, to where it should be. Comparing one thing to another. So you add an ER to the adjective fat. Number 4, that star seems brighter than usual tonight. Brighter. Okay? Comparing the star tonight to the way it usually seems. It appears. One thing to another. Tonight to usually. Number 5, of the 3 boys, who caught the biggest fish? 3 or more boys, their fish are being compared, so you would use biggest, EST, to the end of the adjective big. Number 6, the bread is very fresh. Not adding an ER, not adding an EST, because it's not being compared to anything. It's just making the statement, the bread is fresh. Number 7, do you know which verse is the shortest verse in the Bible? Of all the verses in the Bible, which one is the shortest, EST? Comparing all the verses in the Bible. And we know that's John 11:35, Jesus wept. Number 8, my frog was the fastest one in the race. Take the adjective fast, add EST, because you're comparing your frog to all the other frogs in the race. Number 9, the cold lettuce is crisper than the warm lettuce. Here, you take the adjective crisp, you add ER because you're comparing the cold lettuce to the warm lettuce. Okay, comparing one thing to the other. And number 10, just making a statement. My toast is cold. Not comparing it to anything else. All right? So, in Think B, it says, write the sentence numbers in the blanks to answer the following questions about Think A. Number 1, in which sentence is no comparison made? Just making a statement. Okay, so you'd write whatever sentence number that is. If it's sentence 2, write a 2. If it's sentence 9, write a 9. Number 2, in which sentence, and there's 2 of them, in which sentences are 2 things being compared, one thing being compared to another, that would be 2, one to another, 1 plus 1 is 2, and there are 4 sentences, so write the number of those particular sentences. Number 3, in which sentences are 3 or more things being compared, and there are 4 of those. So if it's sentence number 7, you'd write a 7. So there are 4 sentences where 3 or more things are being compared, okay? Which would follow rule number 3. So turn the page to 178. Now here, they give you adjectives: sad, hot, loose, flat, dull, tidy, wet, large, fat. I'm reading these. Fat, slim, thick, late, loud, big, sweet, wise, pretty, small, fancy, and coarse. Coarse means rough. So it says sometimes the spelling of an adjective changes when ER or EST is added to it. If the adjective ends with a short vowel sound before the final consonant, then double the final consonant before adding ER or EST. Like hot, you have that short vowel, ot, not hot, not a long O, but a short O. So you would add another T, H-O-T-T-E-R. And for the next comparison where you compare three or more, H-O-T-T-E-S-T. So when you have a short vowel sound in front of a consonant, when you're going to add an ER or an EST to the adjective, you'll double the consonant. If you don't, you leave it. The next rule says, I'm looking here, it's all right here. The next one says, if the adjective ends in an E, drop the final E before adding ER or EST. For example, late, L-A-T-E, ends in a T, does not become L-A-T-E-E-R. Okay, you just drop that final R and add ER, so you make it late. Or you drop that final E and add EST. Not double E's, but one EST for latest. The last rule here, it says, if the adjective ends in Y, change the Y to an I before adding ER or EST. For example, fancy, F-A-N-C-Y, you would drop the Y and you would add an I-E-R. Or an I-E-S-T. So fancy becomes fanciest, F-A-N-C-I-E-S, fancier, I should start with, F-A-N-C-I-E-R, or fanciest, F-A-N-C-I-E-S-T. Okay, so follow those rules with all these words that I read: sad, hot, loose, flat, dull, tidy, wet, large, fat, slim, thick, late, loud, big, sweet, wise, pretty, small, fancy, or coarse. They already did fancy for us. All right, so for an example, for sad, the first one's sad, it's got S-A-D, so it's got I've written out sad here. It's got a short A, sad. It's not sade, it's sad, okay? So because it has a short A, we're gonna add two D's to make it sadder, and then two D's to make it saddest. S-A-D-D-E-R, S-A-D-D-E-S-T, okay? I don't want to erase the board to show you that. So I'm going to show it right here on a piece of paper. So we have sad, sadder, and saddest. This is all you do on page 178. So they give you the word sad. So because it's got a short A, because I'm following the rules on the top, I add two double consonants, S-A-D-D-E-R, and then saddest, S-A-D-D-E-S-T. Okay, follow those rules. You're going to do the same for hot, for house, all the way down to coarse. All right? All right, so, and then on page 179, it says, whenever you use ER or EST, make sure you state what you are comparing. For example, this is wrong. It says, I am shorter. Shorter than what? If you're comparing something, we need to know I am shorter than, okay, whoever. So you would say, I am shorter than you are. Or I am shorter than he is. Or I am shorter than she is. Okay, you can't just say, I am shorter. You need something to compare if you're using the adjective short with an ER after it. Or I am the shortest. Shortest what? The shortest of who? Remember, you have to be comparing three or more things. So I am the shortest is wrong, so you could say I am the shortest girl in my class. Okay, that is correct. So it says here, finish these incomplete comparisons. I'm right here on page 179. One says, Natalie's paper was the neatest. The neatest between what? Okay, so you're going to finish that. Natalie's paper was the neatest paper of all the students in class, or of all the students in the school. Just compare it to three or more. Number two, these shoes feel tighter. Tighter than what? Tell me what you're comparing it to. Finish these sentences, in other words. Solomon was wiser. Solomon was wiser than who? Okay, you need to compare Solomon to someone else. Number 4, these strawberries are sweeter. Sweeter than what? Okay. This blanket is the softest. The softest out of what? All right, so you need to give a comparison that makes sense. Remember, ER is comparing one thing to another when you have an ER at the end of an adjective. EST is comparing 3 or more things, okay? Right C, you do not have to do right C. You put an X through that. You don't have to use extra paper. I think we're getting the point of it. Remember D, some of these sentences have capitalization or punctuation errors, so we're doing a little review. Circle C, correct. If the sentence is correct, the punctuation is correct, and the correct words are capitalized, you'd circle the C. If they are incorrect, you circle the I. Okay, we've done stuff like that a million times, so you should be good. All right, so you're doing pages 177 to 179. If you have any questions, just shoot me a text or FaceTime me. If I can't pick up right away, I will get back to you as soon as I can. Do a good job.